So here we are operating.
Just tuck in like I do.
All right, listeners. So welcome to this bonus episode. So this is a kind of a get to know these voices that talk at you all the time kind of an episode. And so we just thought it'd be kind of fun to shed a little bit of light on us and why we do what we do. So I've put together some questions and we're going to go through them and I'll ask you and then I'll answer kind of like we do the shadow chat session thing.
Okay.
And we can just kind of work through these. It's not too crazy extensive, but it give our listeners a little bit of a peek behind the scenes.
You're going to unveil some of the mystery that is John?
Yep. Just no photos.
Wow. I make no promises.
So, to begin with, what drew you to the dark themes of our shows?
I like creep. 3 words. I like creep.
So is that like you've always liked creep?
Oh yeah. I've always liked creepy stuff, unexplained stuff, paranormal stuff. Anybody who knows me knows I'm seeking out the scary movie that finally gives me nightmares and doesn't allow me to sleep. The problem is I fall asleep during scary movies.
I don't know how anybody can fall asleep in a movie, period.
I do.
You're lucky.
I fall asleep during scary movies. I've even done it at the theater. Yeah. Scary movies put me to sleep. It's weird.
I just can't fall asleep in movies at all. And it sucks because I'm jealous of those people that can actually sleep. So
I know. But if I do go through a bout of insomnia, I throw on a scary movie and I can fall asleep.
That's crazy.
It helps. It's weird and my family hates it. But so like, you picked this movie and we're watching it for you and you fall asleep. It's just, I don't know.
So is that like the main driving force, do you think, is like the creep factor?
Yes.
So
mystery, yeah.
For me, I would have to say the mystery of it instead of the creep factor. I've always been driven by mystery. I mean, when I was a little kid, I would consume like every Encyclopedia Brown book I could get my hands on. He was my favorite.
Yeah.
I read Encyclopedia Brown like crazy. I've always loved detective shows like Murder, She Wrote when that was out, and so I think I've always had a bit of that. And then, like I talked about in Rocky Mountain Reckoning in the introductory episode of this season, was the Lisa Marie Kimmel case was huge for me because I was 11 when that happened. And it was a really big deal. And then it got put on Unsolved Mysteries, which, for somebody from Cody, Wyoming.
Yeah.
There was actually 2. There was the Silver Dollar shooting that was on there too. But,
that was 911, wasn't it?
That was Rescue 911. Yeah. You're right. Yep. I still have that on VHS, by the way. I recorded it when it came on, and I still have that episode.
I watch it on YouTube occasionally.
I watched it on YouTube.
When I need a little nostalgia
for
that Rescue 911 songs, yeah.
But, I think that, I know that Lisa Marie Kimmel's murder really, really impacted me. And I think kind of drew me even more into the true crime thing. And then, working in emergency services with law enforcement and stuff. Although I never went the law enforcement route, I did become even more intrigued by it and everything. And then having the opportunity to participate in some searches for missing women and work with the families and stuff. So it's just been a kind of a lifelong
evolution.
Yeah. And which kind of brings it to this. And for me, it's not really the dark theme that draws me, but true crime is dark.
It is dark.
There's no, I mean, that's the nature of it.
Yeah.
And so it ends up being dark just because of the subject matter. But what draws me, I think, is more the mystery than the creepy.
I love mystery and creepy and all that.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, what makes us what we are, I don't know. I know that the true crime community is huge, so we're not alone in that.
I'm going to go also with, like, people have asked me, okay, so I have such high anxiety. You know this. Anybody who's known me for 10 minutes knows this. But I feel like scary movies, paranormal stuff, true crime stuff, in a sense, is a fear I can control.
Yeah,
where in other anxiety issues I can't control. So it's kind of me trying to harness, in some ways, a fear that I can control.
So almost like a therapeutic aspect.
Kind of like cathartic, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So your favorite memory from any of our Dark Dialogue projects?
I don't think there's just one. I don't think there's just one, because I absolutely love saying the most off the wall things and getting your reaction, because it's just amazing. I don't know. I don't know that I have a single favorite memory.
Yeah, that would be tough for me too, to like pinpoint a memory.
This is just fun, and it's, I don't know. I don't want to seem weird by saying crime is fun.
Well, I mean, no, but I think I'm not at all ashamed to admit that I enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, and we just talked about what draws us to this. And so I don't think that there's anything wrong with enjoying what you do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Or we'd stop doing it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, for me...
And then there would be a giant hole in my life. I'm just playing. Go ahead.
For me, I think it's really just because this is something I've thought about doing for a long time. Like I said, I've been involved in true crime and searches and stuff like that. And so there's always been this piece of me that thought, you know, I should do a podcast. And so the whole thing of making it a reality and having the studio and having all of this set up and everything is just cool shit.
And having your weird ass co-host just drop in whenever.
Yeah, it's cool. It's fun. And we have a lot of fun doing it.
We do.
You know, and so we do have some stuff lined up for the future, which does involve a little bit more field work and live interviews and stuff like that, which I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, same. It's very,
But, you know, at this particular point, I think it's probably just making it into a reality, you know?
You know, and we'd be further along if I'd have believed you the first time you said, we should do a podcast.
Yeah, we would be. We'd be way further along.
I didn't believe you were serious, folks.
But here we are.
Here we are. I finally believed you. And it's been a hell of a ride.
So maybe we already answered this.
I think we did.
Why true crime?
Because everybody wants to solve something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, true crime is, I don't know the statistics on it, but it's definitely one of the most popular podcast genres. You know, I mean, obviously there's no true crime people that are competing with Joe Rogan. I don't think anywhere even in the remotest of neighborhoods, but I don't think there's very many podcasters in general that can compete with Rogan. Like, he is the king daddy of podcasting.
I don't see true crime podcasters as competing, though.
I don't either. I just
really
mean for listeners, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, because Joe Rogan has...
Well, but he has all the Fear Factor fame behind him, too.
Yeah, and he does put out a damn good show.
Yeah, I've watched a few. If you ask me, my favorite one of that has nothing to do with true crime, though. It was when I think he had Macaulay Culkin on, and they were talking about how some headline said that Johnny Depp has finally become like 90% scarves.
This is true.
And I could not stop laughing. I think I laughed myself into a coughing fit with that one.
Yep, I had never thought about that, but that is true.
Johnny Depp has finally achieved 90% scarves. It's great.
But, I mean, to your point, the true crime community is, my experience has been totally the contrary to competition, in that people are willing to help each other out. You know, they appear on each other's shows and they help each other, you know? And so I don't think that it is terribly competitive. You really don't have podcasters attacking other podcasters. We all just kind of...
I mean, unless you're really stupid and you do, like... Who was that? Oh God, was it Logan Paul that went out to the suicide forest and was actually recording bodies?
Oh,
like that needed attacked. That was,
I don't know,
very unhinged. That was not cool.
No. And was that true crime or was that?
I don't know
what
he does.
Nonsense.
He does all sorts of nonsense, but
I mean, I have not encountered true crime that is just completely out of control sensationalist. Like, you know, we called James Renner out on our One More Murray episode, and he has a podcast, but most of my critique of him comes from his like blog and shit in his book, not necessarily his podcast. But I haven't, and I'm sure there are literally hundreds of thousands of podcasts that I have not listened to. I mean, there's so many of them out there. So, you know, to say that none exist, well, I'm sure that some exist that are just, you know, basically the ambulance chasers of the true crime world that are just searching for clicks. But the vast majority of them that I've come across that I've listened to are really in it for the same reason that we are, because they want to give families closure. They want to give victims voices. They want to help get answers in these cases. And the vast majority of them treat it very respectfully, and they're just as professional as they can be with it.
They want to try to tell the right story when people are out there telling the wrong story.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, I think for me, why true crime is just something that I'm really passionate about. You know, and so it's easy to dive in and spend hours researching where...
Yeah, when you put in 16-hour days in this office in here, I understand that.
Yeah, and I don't know that I could really do that with another subject matter. I'm not that interested in other subject matters that I could stand to be there. But with true crime, I spend 10 or 12 hours researching and look up and I'm like, holy shit, I thought I'd been here for 2 hours. I've been here for 12.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Lenny does that on days that we record and I show up and he still has another 10 hours of recording.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. So, okay. So what impact do you want our network to have?
I want to give at least one person a name, at least one
identified person.
Yep. I want to find somebody, maybe not physically, but I want to provide closure to at least one family before we're done.
Yeah. And I'm right there with you. You know, I mean, I think that in the near term, or, you know, what we can, I think, definitely accomplish without any question at all is really our theme, giving voices to the voiceless.
Yep.
I want to give a voice to these souls that have lost the ability to speak for themselves, you know? So that's a big one. And we've talked about that as we were kind of coming up with the idea for this show and all, that that was a big one for us, was to give voices to the voiceless. And then I'm right there with you. I would love to put one shitbag in prison and at least identify like one identified person, or solve one unsolved case or something, you know. But at the end of the day, I would have to say that if a family member came up and was appreciative of the way we handled their family member's case and said that we had some kind of a positive impact in their life, that would be enough for me.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, that would be huge.
Definitely.
But I think we're both driven by the same motivation, and that is to help people.
Definitely.
So, all right. If you could solve one unsolved case, which would it be and why?
That's a mean question. I don't like this question. One?
Yes.
I'm sorry. The very first, I don't know why I said I'm sorry, but the very first thing that came to mind was Black Dahlia. I need to know.
Really?
Yeah, I need to know. Followed very closely by Brandon Embry, because I still need to know how that big Viking dude got. I need to know.
Yeah. So, I mean,
yours is Crystal Reisinger, isn't it?
You know, I would honestly have
it's your white whale.
I mean, that is very true. And it's a case that I've been involved in intimately for a long time. But if I had to be honest, it would be Danielle.
Oh, yeah.
And that is just simply because I knew her personally.
Yeah.
We went to school together. We had spent a lot of time together, because one of my good buddies, his girlfriend was her best friend. And so, you know, we'd end up at a lot of the same parties together and stuff. And then she was married to my cousin. And so, you know, I really got to know her pretty well. And the fact that she just disappeared from here, and there's nothing, it's a hard call to make, because, like I said, because I've been intimately involved in Crystal's case. I have been there, boots on the ground, searching for her. So that one's really big on my list. But if gun to my head, I had to pick,
be Daniel.
I think it would be. Yeah. So, and that's a case that we will be covering. But those are hard cases to cover, because one, we have, you know, no body, obviously we don't know. And then two, it's recent enough that it's still a pretty open investigation. And so it's hard to get a lot of information, but we will be covering her case for sure.
Yeah, if you look on the Park County Crime Graphics website, she is our only missing person still listed on there.
Park County, yeah. But that's a tough one, because we don't know where she went missing.
Yeah.
She's listed as missing from Park County, but her vehicle was found in, I think it was Bighorn County. I'm pretty sure Bighorn County. And so it's impossible to know where she went missing.
Yeah.
I think it's most likely that she went missing in Bighorn County, but who the hell knows?
Right.
But anyway, I think that would probably have to be the one, you know, that I would pick. Historical cases, boy, that's like a sparring match between the Zodiac and Jack the Ripper. I gotta tell you what.
Yeah.
I mean, that
Elisa Lamb. There's so many.
There are so many.
There's so many. But honestly, I think yours is the one that we have the most opportunity to
have a
get
positive
the closest
impact.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, on our wall, we have a whole list. So for our listeners, obviously you can't see inside the studio, but
not yet, anyway.
Not yet, but we've got a wall full of pictures of missing people that are all from a very similar area in Wyoming, and all with very similar circumstances surrounding their disappearances. And Danielle's picture is up there with the rest of them. So, all right. So if dark dialogue could reach one person who needs it, who'd it be?
I don't know. We might not even know who that is yet.
This is true.
I'm copping out of that one because I just
chicken.
I'm sorry.
So I think for me, it would either be one, a family member that needs some consoling, needs a kind voice talking about their loved one, or two, a piece of shit that we could maybe feel guilty enough that he turned himself in. Yeah.
Talk about where people are if he's already been.
Yeah, or somebody that knows something and hasn't said it, and maybe, just maybe, something that we say could trigger them to be like, you know what, it's been long enough. I've kept this secret long enough. But that would be my answer to that question. It's, the one person that could really have an impact, and that would be even just that family member that just needs, that somebody still cares.
Right.
Because the crazy thing about true crime is we all know the big cases. We all know the Lisa Lamb. We know the Maura Murray. We know the Brianna Maitlands and the Heather Elvises and but then there's like Chance Engelbert. Nobody knows that case. I mean, he's been covered.
They do.
He's been covered on a couple of podcasts, but nothing like so many of these. And then, when you get into like the missing Indigenous women, most of them never get a podcast,
which
about
is going to be fixed.
Yeah, it is going to be fixed.
Yeah.
But, a lot of them that they never get their stories out. And there's so many true crime victims and victim families that their stories have never been told. I mean, luckily Up and Vanish did the Crystal Reisinger case, but short of them, I don't think that case has been covered like by any or very few.
Very few. Find, I think, one other.
Yeah, it's very few. And then there's all kinds of them that have never been covered by anybody.
Definitely.
And so, yeah, I don't know.
So I take it back. I'm willing to answer this question now.
Okay, go.
I'm going to answer it with your favorite word. Ditto.
Perfect. So if the network ended tomorrow, what's the legacy that you would want us to have had?
I think that was already answered in all of these, was that we helped someone.
Yeah.
Brought comfort to someone.
Give a voice to the voiceless.
Gave a name to someone who's just a number. Like, I'm really disturbed by the fact that one of them's not even called Jane Doe. She's just a number.
Yeah. It's like,
I'm so disturbed by that.
That was me too.
That's what I would want to leave.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you. I think that, we're simpatico when it comes to our motivations behind this and everything. So I think that the answer to that question is a pretty simple one. And it is just that, so our legacy was, I think that, if I had to pick a single legacy, if it ended tomorrow, then we haven't solved any cases. We haven't named any unnamed victims, but we have given voices to the voiceless.
100%.
And I guess that would be, that we've always handled these cases with respect, with a strong focus on the victims and the victims' families. And I think that exactly what we laid out when we started talking about doing this is what we want the show to represent, is what I would want our legacy to be.
And the fact that people have said, I do like listening to you guys. You give reverence, but you're also entertaining. mean, that matters. I like hearing that. That's why I always share it with you when I hear it too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean,
I do get a lot of requests for seeing the Mystery Man, though.
Not gonna happen.
I don't know if I can be bought for the right price.
Nobody's got to buy you. They got to buy me. And there was a copyright on this mug right here. So your ass is going to end up in court if it shows up anywhere.
You think so, huh?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. I see you for copyright infringement. Something. I mean, perhaps something could be worked out with enough followers and enough engagement.
That's what I'm saying.
Enough engagement and that kind of stuff. So, origin stories. We each now share the personal story of how we got into the Dark Dialogue Network, why we were drawn to its dark themes, and what keeps us hooked. So we've kind of covered some of this.
That's all of it, I think.
So, but is there a personal story for you? I shared like
Danielle
and you know, like Lisa Marie Kimmel and Crystal Ray Singer. Is there one for you that just kind of got it? So, I mean, you said the Black Dahlia.
Always. That one just drives me nuts.
So how long have you been following that case or been interested in that one? Because it's been around longer than you have.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I don't even know if I can remember back as far as basically because his son thinks he did it.
Oh, yeah, that dude. Yep.
Yeah.
Doctor guy.
Yeah. So that got me. I'm like, when a family member is speaking out that he thinks his dad did it and his dad skipped out, and yeah, I want to know. I want to know more.
And it was so brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about a lot of brutal cases. You know, there's some terrible ones out there.
Yeah. Definitely some terrible ones.
Yeah, what is the girl that, oh my God, that story that, I can't think of her name. I could see her face. But she was burned alive. And when the EMTs got there, she was still alive.
Where was this?
It's down south somewhere.
It's not ringing any bells.
Oh my gosh, really? It's a tough story because that's how she was killed. Like, they don't know for sure if she was like knocked out or something maybe first, but when the EMTs got on site, she was like walking towards them with her hands out, and she is like burned head to toe.
Oh.
And the trial testimony of the one EMT kid, like, I mean, he was like a young kid. He was on like a volunteer ambulance service, volunteer fire department. He's like 19, 20 years old. And I mean, this poor kid he can't hardly get through his testimony describing what he had to see. And I mean, so it's an extraordinarily brutal case. So it's not like we don't have those, but the Black Dahlia case was so bizarre in that she was cut up
with no blood
and no real reason. Like, it's so weird.
And just left
in like an empty lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just.
No, I understand. I understand the fascination of that case. I am too. It's never been like the one for me that really grips me or whatever, but I've definitely researched it. And
it's not the only one that grips me, but when you say something, when you ask me the question of something that's not been figured out that I want figured out, for some reason, she shows up.
Yeah. No, that's completely understandable. We all have ours.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like mine, like I said, is, I mean, obviously Danielle because of my personal connections and stuff, but
yeah,
if it wasn't for that, it would be Crystal Ray Singer's case, 100%. And I think part of that for me is because we know the son of a bitch that did it. At least I think I do.
Right.
But there's not evidence to convict him of it. And that's the frustrating thing. And unlike a lot of these cases where it's like, first we have to find the body and then we have to try to figure out what happened.
Yeah.
Like so many of our cases on Rocky Mountain Reckoning, it's not only we've got to figure out who they are, but then you also got to figure out who killed them. That's a big ask, especially when you have like 50 years or whatever.
Yeah.
But with like Crystal's case, we know who did it. And if we could find the body, I think there could be a prosecution like immediately. So that's what's so frustrating to me on that case is it's just one thing. And, it's not a minor thing. It is her body.
Yeah.
It's like the most major thing.
Yeah.
But it's
the last piece of the puzzle.
It's got to be there. It's got to be relatively close to Crestone because there wasn't time to travel like 100 miles.
Yeah.
So it's got to be there. But it's such a vast area and there's so much nothing that, I mean, you could drive 15 minutes in any direction and be in some secluded spot.
Yeah. Still in nothingness. Yeah.
Nothingness. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'd say that would be my take on that one. So one episode that changed us. So we each pick one episode that reshaped why we do this work and explain its impact.
I don't know if we have enough episodes for me to do that. I don't want to be like terrible, but I don't know if any of them have actually changed me.
So for me, I could answer that. And I would have to say diving into the Rocky Mountain Reckoning season 1 has definitely changed me because I think that I had maybe a predisposition to more well-known cases and not a really big focus throughout like all of my true crime, whatever, in like unidentified people. It's never really something that's come up, and it's not something that there's very many podcasts about. Very few actually are telling a story of an unknown victim and an unknown perpetrator because it's hard to tell and it's hard to make it entertaining. But to me, that has been the most stark slap in the face that I've probably experienced in my entire true crime history. And that is the unbelievable number of unidentified bodies that are out there. And like you said not very long ago, some don't even have a doe name. They just have a number, that UP 7385, and that's it. And then when you really start thinking about these, mostly women, but there's John Does too out there. And just the idea that their grave is like a drawer in a coroner's office or, a pauper's grave at the local cemetery where there's just maybe a little brass, deal that just says
has their number on it.
And number. Yeah. And I mean, that has really hit me.
Or found.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that has really hit me hard. And then, when you see like the artist renderings of them and stuff like that, you see these beautiful young women that were so young. So many of them were so young, not even 20. And their life was taken from them, but not just their life, but their entire identity.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, that has been the most stark slap in the face for sure. It's just been like, you always know that, I'm not naive. In the back of your mind, there's unidentified people all over the place. And, you maybe mention it or talk about it once in a while. But until you really start digging in and until you're like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just run, like a missing person in NamUs, I think probably everybody does this, but it's like, I am super clever. Nobody's thought of this.
Yeah.
But then you're like, I'll just run a nationwide search for all the reported missing people matching this identity. And you come up with like 557 pages of names.
Yeah.
And you're like, son of a bitch, this is going to take me years.
I'll take it back.
And even if I work through all these, like,
yeah.
Or on the other side of the coin is you're like, okay, so I know all of this information. I know that this person went missing from one of these areas during this particular period of time. This should be pretty easy, right? So you enter everything in and nothing comes up.
Yeah.
Nobody was reported missing.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh. So they're not even in the system.
And it hurts worse when it's such a small town that you're like, somebody should be missing you.
Yeah.
How did you come from this town of 12 and a half people?
Afton, Wyoming.
And no one's missing you.
Yeah.
Which makes me think the whole damn town did something to you.
It's crazy.
So, yeah.
But then you think about, like, I mean, I don't know. It's just, you try to imagine their stories. You try to imagine how this is possible. And the sad part of it is a lot of the Rocky Mountain Reckoning episodes, or a lot of the victims we're talking about, are from the 70s and 80s. So it is a time that's a while ago, but it happens today.
Mm-hmm.
There's unidentified people being found all the time. Shit, we're just talking about them a few episodes ago in New England.
Mm-hmm.
We just come across a skull. We have no idea who it belongs to.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. Human remains found in this area.
It's terrible.
And yeah. And, when you're involved in missing persons, like in a missing persons investigation, and then, body parts are found, like it did happen in Crystal's case where remains were found. And so then you get like all excited because maybe this is the big break. And then
it's not her.
It's not her. And then you're like, how many freaking bodies are there out there? And the answer is way more than you ever want to know.
Yeah.
Way more than
the guy they found when they were looking for Gabby. I always bring that one up.
Yeah.
When they were looking for Gabby, they found another guy. I don't remember if he had been reported missing. I think that he had.
I'm pretty sure that he had.
But yeah, just.
And like Dennis Day's case, that was another one where remains were found around that town, and I'm drawing a blank on it.
That town.
Monte Vista. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, it's Dennis, and you think about the families that every time body parts are found, every time remains are found, they've got to run and get dental records or run and get DNA or whatever, and wait and see, is this my loved one? Is this my daughter? Is this my son?
Yeah.
And then go through the whole episode of losing them again when they find out, no, that's not. Yeah. That's not them. So it's weird that families get so excited to find out their loved one is dead, but after they've been missing for so long, they've already kind of come to the realization that they're probably gone, and now they just want to give them a burial.
Yeah.
And so
somewhere they can go visit.
Yeah, and be close to them and feel close to them and do what all the rest of us do when we bury our dead, So, vision for the future. So we each describe our dream for Dark Dialogue Network's future, where we want to take the shows or investigations in 5 years and why it matters.
I would like to be more boots on the ground, looking for people, finding people. I think I'm copping out a lot, but I think we're answering these in all the other questions. Like I just want to bring people home.
Yeah, I mean, I think that my goal 5 years down the road is, I think I've been very clear. One, I want the adoptive victim program up and running, and to develop a whole team of researchers out there that are working with us to try to give names to these unnamed victims and to, try to solve these crimes and stuff. I want the Dark Dialogue Collective to be a group where, if in my vision, like, is this my dream? Then I would say that we would have a group that we can call on no matter where we were needed.
Yeah.
And be on the ground within 24 hours to be searching for somebody. And, even have people on the ground before that.
Yeah.
Because they're local, starting to get the logistics for us set up and stuff like that. And
Definitely.
Where we actually are arriving on site and helping to search for these victims, while maybe we can prevent them from being a true crime episode, where maybe we could find them alive before, that would be amazing. Wonderful. And then as far as like the network's future, I see us continuing to grow, potentially adding more shows to the Dark Dialogue family, and just kind of, continuing on with what we do. But I do want to work towards, and we've talked about this is part of our more short-term goals, but I really want to be on location at some of these stories, and actually meeting with the people, the families, the suspects, whatever. And so I would say, as far as changing of the show goes, I would love to work towards that direction, where, we come into town and spend a week investigating, interviewing, going on searches ourselves, bringing in, cadaver dogs and stuff like that. I think that's a big dream. Yeah. But that would be, if it's just like
manifest it,
whatever you want, this is whatever you want, well, that would be it.
Yeah.
And if I could only pick one, it would be the collective of listeners and participants, where we can all work together, share the credit, and just do good.
Yeah. We're way too much alike, because that's why this works.
Yeah, it is.
That's why this works.
We talked about it quite a lot before we jumped into this, and kind of, our thoughts and feelings on it. And they've always been very much the same. We just want to help people. That's the goal here. So, but that's it. That's all the questions that I put together. So, if you enjoyed this episode and you'd like more stuff like this, then it's gonna require you, the listeners, to submit some questions to us that you want answered. And then if we get enough of those, we'll do another one of these episodes. So I haven't decided if this is going to release on the main platforms, or if this is going to be a bonus episode reserved exclusively for Patreon and Coffee. That's kind of the direction I'm going, but we'll see. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this and learned a little bit about us, and we have fun just bullshitting and talking anyway. So, but yeah, that's a little glimpse behind the microphone, I guess, so to speak, on, what your hosts are all about and why we do this stuff. So if you like us, if you like what we do, give us a like and a follow. And like I said, reach out to us at info@darkdialogue.com, and ask us questions, submit cases, or if you want to know our thoughts on stuff, send it in to us so we can talk about it. But other than that, that's all I have. Obviously, I'm John.
I'm Angela.
And have a wonderful night.